New Scotland Yard, London, England, an address that is known worldwide. Headquarters of the Metropolitan Police, guardians of the capital city against crime. In the marbled lobby, an eternal flame burns in memory of those members of the civil staff who have given their lives in both world wars, together with a book of honour in which is recorded the names of police officers who have lost their lives in the course of duty. And in a quiet corner of the building, a place where legend becomes fact that I would like to tell you about. But it is for the Deputy Commissioner to invite you in.
Here in the Yard is one of the police museums that many have heard of, but few have visited. It's an unusual museum and started life in 1875, when it was decided to keep certain items of property seized in connection with crime to instruct the young detectives of the then relatively new Detective Department of Scotland Yard. It was not too long before the press gave this collection of somewhat macabre artifacts the unofficial title of the Black Museum. And so it's remained over the years, exhibiting the darker side of human nature, instructing the professional policeman and the lawyer, and intriguing the layman by its very name and remoteness. We've never opened the doors of the Black Museum to the general public, and all visits have been by way of invitation and always highly prized. The exhibits range from the apparently insignificant to the spectacular, and from the hardly known to the infamous, whose names are known throughout the world. They have in common one thing: supreme importance to the history of crime and the criminal, as you will see.
A macabre reminder that until 1969 a British judge could still don the black cap and pronounce that the prisoner shall be taken from this court to a place of execution and be hanged by the neck until dead. In 1847, this is the noose that was placed around the neck of George Platts, condemned to death for the murder of a man called Collis. In 1896, Amelia Dyer suffered the same fate. She was a mass murderer of children. The thickness of the rope, strangely, not differentiating between man and woman. It was the choice of the executioner, who had studied his subject for some while through a peephole in the condemned cell. This pretty blonde was the last woman to be hanged in Britain, Ruth Ellis, whose name has taken its place in the annals of crimes of passion. 28-year-old Ruth was managing the Little Club in London's West End, with an apartment over the shop, as it were, when she met and fell in love with one of the customers, racing driver David Blakely. Blakely moved in, but his bad behavior lost her job and, of course, the apartment. He continued to date Ruth for some time, but their quarrels got worse and worse. In April of that year, their relationship reached its dramatic climax. Outside a pub in Hampstead, a suburb of London, it was the Easter holiday weekend, Blakely had promised to spend it with Ruth. He stood her up. She tracked him down to the Magdala pub and waited for him to come out. When he did, she levelled this gun and emptied all 6 chambers. In court, charged with the murder of David Blakely, her defense attorney gave a spirited plea for mitigating circumstances. But the prosecutor had one question that sealed her fate. When you fired the revolver, what did you intend? Ruth replied, I intended to kill him. The jury took 14 minutes to bring in a verdict of guilty.
Tuesday, the 12th of July, 1955. At 9 a.m. this morning, Ruth Ellis was hanged at Holloway Prison, while over 1,000 men, women and children waited or prayed outside.
This is the report of the surgeon who carried out the post-mortem, certifying her death. Her execution caused such a public outcry that Parliament had to take notice. On a free vote, the House of Commons resolved that this House believes that the death penalty no longer accords with the needs or true interest of a civilized society. But in spite of the public sympathy for Ruth Ellis, the House of Lords rejected it. and it took 14 years until 1969 for the will of the people to prevail, and for it to be impossible for another Ruth Ellis to be legally put to death. Her gun, now an exhibit in the Black Museum at Scotland Yard.